Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. Joining me on line one is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you on this warm Friday night?
Well, I got life's giving me some hard times right now. I kind of feel like the horseman jumped me after a promo, but I'm going to just try to be like LeBron and everything should be okay.
There we go. And joining us on line two is Knicks fan extraordinaire, Brandon Fenty. Brandon, how are you this evening?
Gentlemen, always a pleasure to be here. I can't wait to talk about them. I can't wait.
All right. Real quick before we get to your Knicks, I actually saw our hometown Cavs in person. It was a Kevin Love throwback game. He beat Boston, which is always fun to see. Looks like they might trade Colin Sexton, Jimmy. We've been calling for it for a while, and we might get it.
I think if they want to actually get better, I think that's what they have to do. You got to go ahead and move on from Sexton. You need another Okoro-type player. For the players he's been asked to defend this season, I think he's done okay. You need another wing. It should be available in the draft. But you got to get rid of Sexton and let the other guards get more playing time.
Yeah, they're reporting that, his numbers are comparable to De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox got a 5-year, $163 million extension. You can't give that to Colin Sexton. But we've made that point before. Let's move on to teams that are in the playoffs. Brandon, your Knicks are hosting the Hawks in the 4-5 series out east. It is the first playoff game at Madison Square Garden since 2013, when Melo and Jason Kidd and some future Cavs, J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert, beat Boston in round one. The Knicks here starting out as underdogs at plus 100. The Hawks are favored at minus 120. Brandon, how disrespectful is this of your Knicks that they're underdogs?
Gentlemen, let's get the party started. I'm ready for the playoffs. Let's go. I will say, look, okay, it's understood. It's understood. People look at Trae Young. Oh, he's the future. He's the next Steph Curry, and we, I think, all are in agreement that that's a little bit premature for a guy who is, a couple inches shorter, a couple inches lighter, doesn't have the chops to stay up with the likes of Steph Curry. But yeah, that is wildly disrespectful to look at the entirety of the situation and call the Knicks underdogs in this scenario. Wildly disrespectful. And I try to take off my fan hat every once in a while, but just looking at it from both a fan perspective and a sort of analytical perspective, I mean, there's so much to break down and to prove as to why the Knicks are going to be my favorites to win this series, not only from a fan perspective, but also from a numbers perspective, from a chess match. No disrespect to my guy Nate down there.
So let's just get right into it, Brandon. One of the biggest advantages I think your Knicks have is Tom Thibodeau. Does it start there? Is it that simple in a long series?
I think it does. And like I say, no disrespect to Nate McMillan. I remember us all being on the call or in our chat message, and no later than 20 minutes after it was said it would be a dumb idea for Philly to let him go, or I'm sorry, Indiana to let him go. They let him go. But I think everyone's in agreement that he belongs in Atlanta or a city that's more suited to his play style and to the way he navigates. But I do think in the chess match versus Tibbs versus Nate McMillan, a Thibodeau style team is catered more towards the slow grind of the playoffs. And I think the Knicks have exactly what is needed to let this happen. From a Nerlens Noel to a Julius Randle, who's sort of their Energizer bunny. I get everything done. But just talking coaching, I think Thibodeau wins the chess match, wins the adjustments. I don't have this going 7, but I definitely have the Knicks winning the chess match in 5 or 6. So.
Interesting. So Jimmy, Brandon touched on it there. These two teams play very different styles. The Hawks, they want to get out, they want to run, they want to keep the ball moving, they want to take deep threes with Trae Young. The Knicks pretty much just drag everybody down to their caveman level. Are the Hawks going to be able to get out and run in this series?
Well, I think part of that's going to depend on whether or not it's called like a 1995 playoff game or a 2021 playoff game.
Well, it is the first playoff game in New York in a while, so I would expect at least an evenly officialed series from the Knicks' perspective.
I would agree. I think just for me, the craziest thing about this series, like, it wasn't just Knicks media there was like a 3-week period where all across the country there were sports pundits telling me that Julius Randle deserved to be in the MVP talks. That you could easily say both of these teams overachieved on the season. But if you think of the amount of press the Knicks got for what they did, I don't think many people that don't follow the NBA closely would know that the Hawks and the Knicks have the exact same record. Like, the Knicks all year have not necessarily been better than the Hawks. It is going to depend on play style. I love the Hawks backcourt. I love them. I don't think the Knicks backcourt can handle the Hawks backcourt. I don't necessarily trust either of the units, but I just have a hard time looking at that front court rotation for the Knicks and believing these are the guys that are going to win a playoff series. They very well might. I'm actually going to take the Hawks in 7. I don't think either of these teams are good enough to win 2 or 3 games in a row against an opponent. So I'm going to take the Hawks in 7. I think it's going to be a hard-fought series. Just the Hawks have some guys that are really shooting really well. They've got some guys playing really well. I love their guard play. I think this is a primetime moment for Trae Young to, as Brandon talked earlier, some people project him as maybe a next Steph Curry. Well, this is the time you get to beat the next Steph Curry. So I'm going to take the Hawks. I don't really know what I think either of these teams are going to look like in the playoffs. This is a much different team than the Hawks have had in the playoffs in the past. And you, Evan, you listed the players that were on the Knicks team the last time they were in the playoffs. So it's 2 very different teams. I'm curious what Tibbs' rotations are going to look like. If he's going to let the players that got him here play, or if it's going to be really easy for him to, like, maybe they get down 2-1 and Derrick Rose plays like 40 minutes. Like, I'm curious to see what Tibbs' rotations are going to look like. I do agree the coaching matchup definitely goes to Tibbs. I just really like the Hawks backcourt more than I like the Knicks front court, which is both teams' strengths.
First of all, we're going to put some respect on Earl Barron and Chris Copeland's name. Okay?
No, we're not. We're actually not going to do that.
We're not doing that today.
I forgot those guys played in the league.
Okay, look, Pablo Prigioni deserves your respect. Okay, we had. I can list you probably off the top of my head everyone on that roster, obviously, but you know, I'm pretty sure it still holds true that the Knicks have had the worst record in the NBA since the 99-2000 season or somewhere around there. You know, James Dolan aside, and you know, as you Clevelanders will know, the Dolans don't have the best track record for running sports organizations. But
no, they don't.
That's another topic for another podcast when we talk about how no one's going to Indians games, and then all of a sudden they're, you know, second or first in their division in the wild card. We'll talk about that in a few months, but I will say that just chess match wise and execution wise, I definitely will expect the Knicks to execute better down the stretch, and there's 100% a Thibodeau, Tom Thibodeau thing that happens and every time his teams are in the playoffs. And like you said, I do believe that Trae Young will, you know, have his 30 and 40 plus point games, but I just don't see anyone slowing down Energizer Bunny Julius Randle. I don't see execution wise down the stretch when the Knicks are, you know, 3, 4, 5 possessions under 5 minutes are stopping the Hawks. Who's going to step up? You know, I love Bogdanovich. He's great. I don't trust Gallinari at all, but I just don't see anyone stepping up in those waning moments.
I think Bogdanovich and Young, I think they're both going to step up. And I hate to say it because it has been such a great season, and I've enjoyed watching some of the Knicks games. I feel like the moment is going to be too big for Julius Randle. I could be wrong. I feel like Julius Randle's going to stop Julius Randle. I want the Knicks to play well. I hope they do well. I just don't know. Like, if you look at, it's just so hard for me to look at that front court and say, yep, these guys are going to win a playoff series.
See,
it's just so hard for me to do. And they definitely have an advantage. Like, player for player, their front court should be able to really beat on the Hawks' front court. I just don't know if I believe they can do it. But we all know sports worlds run better when teams from LA and New York are successful. So I would love to see the Knicks play well. I just don't know if I can believe it.
See, I
the
think the
greatest-
opposite. I think the Atlanta Hawks are a young team, and young teams struggle in the playoffs. We see it every year.
Is there really a difference? Is there really a difference between a young team and a team whose like four best players have never played in a playoff game?
They're at least veterans.
Yeah,
I just don't think the Knicks are
going
going to be. The Knicks aren't going to be overwhelmed when the game slows down. That's what they
All right,
want
well,
to do. They
when-
want to slow
when-
the game down.
When Nerlens Noel gets dunked on and bricks two bunnies, talk to me about how great he played in the playoffs.
Look, I love me some Noah. He stepped up, and like you said, the Knicks have played out of their mind this year. You know, no one expected them to do this well. Projections were battling for the 8th seed, and here they are comfortably, on the fourth seed in the playoffs. So it'll come down to how Trae Young performs. If he can will his team and have sort of Super Saiyan mode, how we saw Jason Tatum do the other day. But
Yeah, for sure.
I don't see the Hawks. Let's say it's 5 minutes left in the game 4, down, I don't know, maybe down 2-1 or 3-0. How are they going to respond to all of that?
Yeah. So just for the record, I have the Knicks in 6.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. See, that's
And the winner here is going to move on. They're going to take on number 1 Philly. Philly's big favorites over Washington. The Sixers are minus 1,000. Washington is plus 650. Jimmy, is this a sweep?
I'm actually going to give Russ and Beal one game.
That's fair.
I think the two of them will that team to win one game. The Sixers, to me, are still the best team in the East. I think they're going to play for the championship. Danny Green, Seth Curry, and Shake Milton are shooting the ball really well, which means Ben Simmons doesn't have to worry about doing what he doesn't do well. He can just do what he excels at. Joel Embiid, if he's healthy and engaged, I believe he's a beast. I believe he's a great player. I think it's gonna be a quick, easy series for them. I do think Russ will find a way to win one game. I think they win in 5, and I think it's probably 4 really easy victories for Philly.
Brandon, you pretty much on the same page there.
I will say that there is a game in there where Mr. Inefficient himself and Bradley Beal as well. I think they squeeze one out. I definitely have it 4-1. But there is a scenario where they do sweep the Wizards. No one would be surprised from here to LA if that happens. Yeah. I thought I was reading something. I think it was on NBA.com. One of the sports writers said Philly has more accomplished defenders than Washington has accomplished scorers, and Sixers have more reliable scorers than Wizards have reliable defenders. And
yes,
I thought that pretty much summed it up right there.
Yes, and that's why Philly swept the regular season series. I think they sweep this series, and I think we can move on.
That's fair.
Brooklyn is taking on Boston in another what appears to be a lopsided series. The Nets are minus 1,300. The Celtics are plus 850. Brandon, does Boston have enough to put it together to steal a game or two here?
First, I'll ask, is it possible for 2 teams facing each other to be eliminated? You knew it was coming, so...
No, somebody has to win this series.
Damn it. Meteor, anything? Okay. I think the Nets win this 4-1. I mean, similar to my Super Saiyan theory for Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, I think Tatum has a game in there. I mean, Jaylen Brown's out. He's not playing. That's the other guy where I can say, well, maybe they squeeze 1 or 2 games in there. But I think the Nets run away with this. And I just want to give a moment to give some appreciation to Joe Harris. I know, people call him the sniper. He's maybe man 4 out of the top 3, top 4 on that team. But for leading the league in 3-point percentage for the second time in 3 years, I mean, I am a Joe Harris guy over here. Okay, so no slander for him whatsoever.
Jimmy, how do you see it coming down between Boston and Brooklyn here?
I feel the exact same way. I think even if Tatum goes Super Saiyan, even if Evans' boy Tristan Thompson has another 12-point double-double, even if Kemba Walker plays well, if Brooklyn is mostly healthy, I don't think it matters. I think they're going to beat the brakes off of Boston once again at the end of this series. We're us and everybody else talking about the NBA has to question how good of a coach is Brad Stevens and how much of a superstar is Jason Tatum. Like, he was great the other night, but it was one game. We've seen him be great for one game. He's yet to be great for a series. I mean, we saw him play his best games and still lose to LeBron. Like, not that there's anything wrong with losing to LeBron, but you want to be a superstar in this league, you got to pull some of those games out. And over a course of a week in a series, he's yet to do that. I just think the Nets are probably the most talented team in the East. I just like the Sixers' construction a little better. But I do agree Joe Harris does an amazing job. They do a great job of getting him open, and he does a great job of hitting open shots. But yeah, I think this is a pretty easy victory for the Nets.
I have it as a sweep, even if Jason Tatum goes Super Saiyan for a game or two.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you guys this: is there a scenario? Not that the Celtics would win the series. I don't think that'll happen unless two catastrophic injuries occur. But is there a scenario where Boston pushes it to 6 or 7 at all?
I don't see how they do it. I mean, even as good as they looked the other night when Tatum went off, when I saw him against the Cavs, they just looked disjointed as a team. But Kemba Walker back, that helps, obviously. I don't know, Jimmy, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they can push this Nets team. And I think the Nets just have too much firepower. Boston has been offensively limited all year. They have players in the lineup that need to score points that just aren't scorers. They rely too much on 2 or 3 guys. I don't think Boston can push this series.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Totally agree. It's a clean one for them. They, Harden's elite passing is something that I'm somewhat surprised about, and I don't know if I'm the only one. I might be the only one on the planet surprised about it, but just looking at how they could stagger, I mean, their big three is better than the entirety of the Celtics team. So it's
they're just better.
It's going to be quick.
Yeah.
In
a rematch of a bubble upset, Milwaukee is facing the Heat, but out for the Milwaukee Bucks are Eric Bledsoe and George Hill. In are Drew Holiday and PJ Tucker. Those new additions have them as a favorite. They're minus 320. The Heat are plus 260. Jimmy, Giannis, and Budenholzer are kind of on the hot seat in this series. Do they get revenge here?
I'm actually going to take the Heat. I thought about this a lot.
Wow.
Just looking at the lineups, I still like the Heat. I know we'll talk about this series some more, but that's my first thought is I like the Heat. 6 games is what separated these two teams in the standings. Jeff Teague actually played a really good game Sunday. And I think that's what has to happen because I think Drew Holiday's got to be completely fresh to chase the Heat shooters around the court. I love Bobby Portis and PJ Tucker on the other side of the ball. I just think it's probably wishful thinking, but I want this to finally be the marquee playoff series for Giannis. Like, I want to see that. But I just see a more clear path for Miami shooters to get the job done over what Milwaukee brings to the table.
Wow. Brandon, do you think the Bucks break through here with a win?
I'm on the same page there. I want the Bucks to break through. I want Giannis to prove his dominance as the most dominant player in the NBA. I think he can really show here, especially the ghost of Miami. So I think we all can agree that Miami still has a couple of what I like to call fuck you guys that just no matter the scenario, Jimmy Butler and even Tyler Hero will say,
yep.
Guys like that they'll rise to the occasion. They all of a sudden they're playing at 120%, and it's like where is this coming from? So that's going to happen. Jimmy Butler will, maybe they'll get punched in the mouth game 1. Jimmy Butler's going to go back. He's going to curse at everybody in the locker room. Pat Riley's going to have to say, "Oh, hold your horses, buddy," and then they're going to come back and blast it in game 2. But I really hope that this is the turnaround and the turning point. I know, Evan, you're really bearish on coaches and coaches, especially in the East. Budenholzer and guys like that. But I just hope this is it where the Bucks can push through and win in 6. I'm going to stick to it and say Bucks in 6. I think Antetokounmpo still needs to shoot more consistently from outside. And Miami really needs to just bring out the Bill Laimbeer in their inner selves and start pushing people around, making it real uncomfortable for him in the paint. There is scenarios where I can see Miami beating them in this series, and I don't think people would be as shocked as we would assume. But I really want to push the Bucks in this, and I have them winning in 6.
I actually have the Bucks winning in 6 too, but I'm very nervous about it. I really don't trust Coach Bud. That's really what it boils down to. Giannis had a comment yesterday or the day before where he seemed very even keeled going into the playoffs, and that's the thing that worries me about Budenholzer and his teams. They don't seem to find another level in the playoffs when everybody else does, and that makes me really nervous. But with the talent they have on the team this year, that should not happen, at least not against this Heat team. And if it does, man, Bud's seat should be pretty hot. All right, let's head out west. Jimmy, I know you've been waiting for this. LeBron's dagger sets them up to face the Phoenix Suns, who are slight underdogs. Not as much as I think everybody would think. Lakers favored at minus 150. Suns are plus 130. I look at this line, Jimmy, and it kind of looks like stealing. Do you think that as well?
Yes.
Do you think this is even a series? How long do you think it goes?
I'm going to give the Suns at least one game, maybe 2. They really did have a great regular season. They have a great rotation. But boy, do I feel bad for DeAndre Ayton. Like, it's not, I mean, because the thing is like, you were taken first in the draft where Luka comes in. And now this is going to be your first playoff exposure. And the last thing I want to happen for the poor young man, which is what I think is going to happen, is there's going to be a whole lot of tape of Anthony Davis tearing him apart.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen because he's really Ayton Brandon is basically the only guy the Phoenix Suns have to guard Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Yep. And as one person, he can't guard the two of them at once, which is going to be a problem for the Phoenix Suns. Do they have any way of working around that?
Interior, I don't see how they can work around that two-headed monster there. They have guys on the wings that they can throw at LeBron, but obviously LeBron's a legend at figuring things out as series go. Like, oh, you're going to do this? Well, I'm thinking 3 games from now, based on what happened just now, this is what's going to happen, and he's usually right.
Let's be fair. If there's one bet to make in all of the first round of the playoffs, it's probably take Phoenix in game 1.
That is interesting. I don't know if I would bet that. But,
yeah. LeBron is notorious for losing early games in series.
Yeah.
And just to further your point, though, Brandon, Drew Crawford has not been able to stop LeBron at any point in their careers, and I don't think he's going to do it today or this week. Like, it's just not going to happen.
That's true. I did want to talk about Ayton a little bit. I'll take the glass half full in this scenario because just doing some research for this, looking at some Ayton games. I looked at actual game tape, some highlights. He moves very well. He's smart in the paint. I do think Anthony Davis brings him out a little bit because Davis can shoot the corner 3 really well, and the Lakers run sets for Anthony Davis to pop out and flare out in the corner and hit threes. So that's going to pull Ayton a little bit. The glass half full here is hopefully this will be his Shaquille O'Neal 1995 moment where Shaq just got absolutely brutalized by Hakeem Olajuwon, and that really turned it around where even Shaq will tell you in interviews, it wasn't until Hakeem killed me that I had to change my game to cater towards the strength of the NBA, the versatility of other big men. How can I change my game to combat that? So he went all muscle, and he said, I'm just going to muscle you to death. And for Shaq's credit, he always worked on his footwork. He had great footwork. So I'm hoping this is Ayton's 95 Shaq moment where Anthony Davis just goes, 30 and 12 on him every game. And then the next 3-4 years, all of a sudden, Ayton is shooting corner threes and hitting long mid ranges and just, fast break. So, I really hope that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the second half of that play-in game, we probably saw about what the players you're actually going to see in the playoffs for the Lakers. I don't think the rotations will be as deep. I don't think there'll be as many players, but I just think that combination of like Schroeder, Caruso, KCP, and Matthews, I just think they're going to be able to completely contain Chris Paul and Devin Booker. I don't know where Phoenix is going to get enough offense against this great Lakers defense. Great.
Yeah, they're the best in the league.
This defense is great.
Evan's favorite player, Andre Drummond, will probably get a lot of he'll probably get a lot of tick here too. Just Phoenix is so porous interior wise, and
Yeah.
I don't think Chris Paul's genius and artistry on the offensive end is enough to make up for their lack of defense and lack of matchup ability, if that's a word, against the Lakers. So
Yeah, I want to give Evan some credit. He absolutely called it that in moments where games are going to count, Andre Drummond's not going to be able to be on the floor. He was an absolute liability in that first half of the Golden State game, but Phoenix is not Golden State.
Right.
I think they'll be able to play all of the bigs against Phoenix, but I think the backcourt rotation will tighten up a little bit, but they could get all five of the bigs in if they really felt like it. I don't think it's going to be a hard series. I do think I'm going to bet Phoenix to win game one. I think they might pull another one out somewhere. So we'll see what happens. But nothing has changed my mind that if Anthony Davis and LeBron James are healthy, the Lakers win the championship.
Aren't you excited for the media frenzy that will always inevitably happen after they lose that first game? Is LeBron done? Is Phoenix going to win the championship? And then all of a sudden they lose 4-1, just 4 straight games of absolute terror.
Yeah, we do this every year with teams that are guard heavy that are supposed to beat LeBron James teams. And on that note, I have a fun statistic for you guys. Since 2011, when LeBron choked against Dallas, he's lost to the Pop, Duncan, Parker, Manu, Kawhi Spurs, and Golden State in the playoffs. That's it. Those are the only 2 teams that he's lost to in the playoffs in the last decade. This Phoenix Suns team is not on that level, and they can't hang. Gentleman's sweep for the Lakers in my book.
So you're saying 4-1?
Yeah, I think it's a gentleman's sweep. They take them 4-1. And go ahead.
I was going to say I'll give Phoenix another game in there. Just at home, I think they're going to get hot, and a goose egg's going to be laid by one of the 2 superstars in LA. So I've got LA winning 4-2.
I think LeBron, I understand the reasoning, Jimmy, behind your argument with game 1, but I think LeBron realizes that rest is going to be even more important than he normally does in the playoffs, and they're going to want to get this series over with as quickly as possible. I
would love for that to happen. I would love for LeBron to put up like a 40-point triple-double in game 1 and get to watch Skip Bayless's head explode on national television.
Oh, man, that would be great. Now, the winner there is going to play the winner of what I think is going to be a really good series. We have Denver and Portland. Dame and the boys are favored here at -120. The Nuggets are +100. Brandon, no Jamal Murray for Denver, but, man, Michael Porter Jr. has just been great, really stepped up. And they also have the likely MVP. Is that enough to make up for Murray's absence?
So I will start I'll give you 2 things. One, everyone here knows how much I love Jokic and how much I love to tease him, but Jokic is amazing. I will say, just watching him play, watching his highlights, watching game tape. And thing 2, hey, remember when the Knicks skipped out on Michael Porter Jr. because of all those injuries? And now all of a sudden we're talking about him for possibly 6th man of the year and budding superstar. Does everybody remember that, or am I the only one? It's like, so yeah, I don't think they have enough. I can't support Denver in this series without Jamal Murray. I've tried to talk myself into it for the past couple of weeks. I've been working it. They might have enough, but I just cannot bring myself to make that conclusion that they will beat a Blazers team with the ultimate fuck you guy in Dame Lillard. And CJ McCollum's he's good for 2 great games out of him, and then the rest are just solid games. So I am interested to see the sort of tongue-in-cheek rivalry between Nurkic and Jokic.
Yep.
I know they kind of, they were on the same team and they didn't really mesh together, so one had to go and one had to stay. But I think Jokic wasn't even starting at that time,
No.
and they couldn't coexist. So I want to see how good Portland can defend the paint, and that's what I'm really interested in. So,
Jimmy, you're a big fan of Dame. Is it Dame time?
Yeah, I think Denver will get a couple games. I think the Blazers win it in 6, maybe 7. But I think Brandon really touched on it. I think what it comes down to is, like, if you look at the Nuggets guards, whatever combination of, like, Campazzo, Monte Morris, and Austin Rivers they want to put out there, can they contain Dame and CJ more than the combination of Nurkic, Cantor, and Covington can slow down the Joker? And I think Nurkic, Cantor, and Covington can slow down Joker more than those 3 guys can slow down Dame and CJ. And then I think if the Blazers get out to a good start, you'll be able to leave Melo on the bench.
Yeah.
And you're going to see, like, fireworks when both of these teams' 6-man comes in the game. Like, Denver doesn't have anybody that's going to be able to keep Melo from shooting the basketball.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. There's no force on earth that can stop Melo from shooting a basketball.
I'm not gonna lie, it brings warm fuzzies when I see him just pound the ball to fade away mid range. It brings me back to like 2003 when this would have been a great play, and he makes it. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
I didn't want to see him. I hate a typical Knicks fan. I will admit to not wanting him on the Knicks at the time, but just bringing him to the present, I don't see how anyone on Denver's bench can contain Melo. I just don't see. And how about Norman Powell? He's averaging 17, 18 points for the Blazers.
Powell's playing very well.
So he's striking now. The iron's hot. They just have way too much for Denver to contain.
Like let's give Portland credit too. I mean, they kind of went opposite of a lot of teams. They won a lot of games down the stretch to get to play Denver in the first round. Like, they wanted this spot. They feel like they match up well. They got to where they wanted, so we'll see how it works out for them. But yeah, I love watching Damian Lillard in the playoffs. He just doesn't, all the way back to the shot against the Rockets. He's done amazing things.
That was a great.
Well, I think you're going to get. I think this series is going 7. I think Portland takes it, so you're going to get to see a lot of Dame in round 1, Jimmy.
Sign me up.
Is there a bet going as to whether or not Damian Lillard hits a game-winning shot in the playoffs?
I had a hard time finding props at the series level, so it's probably something that would be done individually, like by game. So, or you can search around for different books, but that's a tasty bet to think about.
It's likely to happen. I mean, history is on Dame Lillard's side, so I would say it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he dislikes anybody on Denver enough to pull up the 40-footer though.
I think he might just do it to do it.
He feels slighted. Weber State, everyone's written him off. He's never really gotten all the way to the championship, so he has the permanent chip on his shoulder that's always growing, no matter team success. So that's why I love Dame Lillard. I love watching it. I can watch him play. I enjoy watching him play the game of basketball. So
yep.
Yeah, very much so.
Fortunately, in this series, his lack of effort on defense won't cause too many problems.
A series that I'm super interested in is Clippers Mavericks. This was a really close series last year in the bubble. Zinger ended up going out halfway through that series. LA is favored pretty heavily here at -420. Dallas is +340. I just mentioned they gave them all they could handle in Orlando without Porzingis. Is Zinger being in this series enough, or do the new additions for the Clippers help them get by a little easier this time?
Brandon, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a reason Clippers are favored. I mean, this isn't the same team from the bubble last year. Last year they just kind of looked like a deer in the headlights. I'm always bearish on playoff P and that whole scenario there, and he hasn't lived up to the name. But But
Well, they do have playoff Rondo, and Ibaka's a good player.
They've got players. Look, they've got players, and I don't know why Maxi Kleber is oddly important for the interior success of the Mavericks. It should be me talking about how great Porzingis is, but I come up short. You know, for his size, he has a certain skill set. He is who we thought they were, right? He has a certain skill set, and he hasn't really gotten better from when he was on the Knicks. That first injury when he transferred teams, he has not really recovered from that. It's apparent in the way he moves, the way he lumbers up and down the court. So, I've got the Clippers winning in 6, maybe 4 games to 2.
Wow.
And I'm still the pessimist though on playoff P. I think he'll be good for 1 or 2 games, living up to the name, but then otherwise underperforms. So.
All right, Jimmy. You've been very critical of the Clippers for a long time. Do you see them going down in round 1?
I see the Clippers letting me win $340. I am absolutely taking Dallas in this series. I think Dallas is better coached.
Yeah.
I think the Clippers tanking down the stretch to avoid the Lakers in the first round. I don't think this matchup necessarily favors them any better. I think Dallas has just enough good players in their rotation that they can't just focus on Luka. And I have zero faith in Paul George, and really Kawhi at this point too. He hasn't looked fully engaged. I know he only ever looks so engaged because he's a robot, but it looks like he needs a software update or something. He still doesn't look super healthy. I feel like there's a better chance of a Dallas sweep than the Clippers winning in 6 games.
Wow. Dallas sweep.
And I think Dallas is winning this series in 7. I do not like it. Just go look up the last 5-minute numbers of fourth quarters for the Clippers. They are the equivalent of a playoff-bound baseball team with a terrible bullpen. They cannot close games. And I don't know why, because the problem has persisted even with Rondo on the roster.
When in the last 5 minutes of games you like to give up layups and the guy with the ball on the other team is Luka, you probably have a problem.
Yeah. This is a pretty good point, Jimmy.
Luka's going to be Luka. He's going to do Luka type things, and there is a mental scenario where Dallas takes this. But to say sweep, oof, that's some hot fire right there, Evan.
No, I don't think it's a sweep. Jimmy said he thinks it's more likely that Dallas sweeps than the Clippers win in 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think Dallas wins it in. I think it's a 7-game series.
Now, the only thing I will say, Luka has seemed to not be fully focused and serious this year. I know we've talked on here about looks like him and Kristaps not vibing real well. So he is going to have to get serious. Like, he can't be punching people in the nuts. Like,
that's just for everybody listening. That's just a general good rule in life.
Why not? God, that's how I win games. I don't know what you're talking about.
We don't need Draymond. We don't need Draymond Green repeat. I mean, it did help the Cavs win a title. So,
I would, if I had to bet. I bet Porzingis gets injured again. I don't wish this upon anyone, because it's what he does. It's what he loves, his passion. But he's going to get pushed around by someone, some elbow somehow, and it's going to land awkwardly. He misses at least a game, and I just see the Clippers eking it out in a bunch of close games. I don't know.
But you know what? Dallas could just sit him until the last 5 minutes of every game, and he would score 20 points.
Right. Those mid-range jumpers and. Yeah, for a guy that size, you would think.
It's wild. The Clippers' end-of-quarter defense is one of the strangest things I've ever seen. It's so weird.
Yeah, really anything in this series wouldn't surprise me that much, because the Clippers could just come out and be the team that everybody's been talking about them being and put the smack down, or they could come out and completely fold.
This was probably the hardest matchup for me to look at. Just I want to see the Clippers succeed as the little brother of the the larger team. This is the Jets fan in me talking, and the Mets fan in me talking, honestly. But it's going to be tough. Rick Carlisle has a history of making good game-to-game adjustments. Like you said, he's going to make those adjustments in Game 3. It's going to happen. So if let's say it's 2-0, I still don't count the Mavericks out if they go down 2-0. I still think
Well, this was a 3-1 series last year, and it went 7.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think Carlisle is a fantastic coach, and I just think his backcourt and his wings, I think they're just really, really good, and I think you're going to have Paul George and Kawhi wore out by 2 games. I think they've got enough length, and they've got good enough shooting, and if Luka distributes the ball like he can, I think Dallas is going to win this series handily. I'm going to say 6. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 5. I don't think it's going to go 7.
Wow.
I think Dallas is going to handle this series and win me some money.
Wow.
Or Boban goes, 30-10 every game and just demolishes everyone, right?
That's fabulous.
Right, that'll happen.
All right, we've got one more matchup on the docket that hasn't quite been decided yet. Right now, the Grizzlies, giving the Warriors all they can handle, up 18-6 early. A little less than 8 minutes left in the first quarter, so a lot of basketball still to be played. Regardless of who wins this game, do you see either team really giving Utah a series?
I didn't want to do it, but I'll say that Steph Curry's not dead.
Say it.
Golden State's not dead in the water. Steph Curry's not dead. He's a problem. He's a problem. I think obviously if I were Utah, I would want Memphis over Golden State. I would.
Yeah, because Memphis isn't very good.
They're not. I mean, John Morant still has inconsistencies behind the 3-point arc. He's a wizard when it comes to his layup package, but I still don't want to see Steph Curry in a playoff scenario. He has the uncanny ability to turn the tides in a blink of an eye.
That's going to do it for this week's episode. Brandon, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks, guys. It's always a pleasure.
All right, and best of luck to your Knicks, sir. All right, and Jimmy, thank you for joining us as well.
No, there's no place else I'd rather be.
All right, and for these two gentlemen, thank you for listening to the podcast. I'm Evan Belfiore, and thank you for listening to No Broken Legs.
Every action has a repercussion. Lyrical bullets don't make me get the